The Super Mario Bros. Movie was my most anticipated movie of the year. Obviously I'm still excited for films like Across the Spider-Verse and Oppenheimer, but the Mario movie was the movie I was most excited for. The reason for this is because I am a massive Mario fan. I always have been. For goodness sake, my channel was known as Mario Bowser 494 until a few weeks ago. My Mario fan brain got me hyped for this movie from the word go, and then the trailers for the movie actually looked really good. The animation was pretty, the movie looked fun, and it had so many great references and Easter eggs. I wasn't very sold on Chris Pratt at this point though, but I went into the movie with an open mind. And then the critical reviews started coming in where it looked like the movie killed the critic's grandma or something. Seriously, these reviews were way too harsh. This is why I never trust Rotten Tomatoes. Letterboxd is my friend. Despite this less than stellar reception, I still went into the movie with an open mind. I went in expecting to enjoy the film as a Mario fan thanks to all the references which would most likely be in the movie. I pushed my film studies brain to the back of my head and went into the movie with my Mario fanboy brain primarily, and was thus hyped to see the movie. I don't actually go to the cinema much, but I definitely made an exception for this movie, and let me tell you, the cinema I went to was really decked out. After priority number 1, I sat down to watch my most anticipated movie in a while, and I was quite disappointed honestly. Yeah, the Mega Mario fan was disappointed by the movie. Don't misquote me though, I don't think the film was bad at all, but I wouldn't call it very good either. It is instead a perfectly fine movie which I got quite a bit of enjoyment out of thanks to my Mario brain going burr. However, I think that this movie really could have been so much more and ultimately lacks spark. Although I will be fair to this movie and go over what I did like about the film first before I delve into my problems. As I just said, I did still enjoy the movie thanks to my love of the Mario franchise, and I have good reason to. This movie is absolutely made with the Mario fans in mind with the amount of Easter eggs and references present, from the various locations being ripped straight from iconic locations in the games, to the training level being reminiscent of the 2D levels, to the more deep cut references like the fricking plumbing commercial. I know we all knew this was going to be in the movie, and I do wish it was kept a secret, but it doesn't change how cool it actually was to see. However, the main part of the movie which made me squeal the most as a fan was the music. I'm a sucker for a good leitmotif, especially if it's using songs I have a special attachment to, so naturally I became unreasonably happy whenever a classic Mario tune started playing. Hearing a remix of the airship theme in the first minute of the movie, for example, immediately put a smile on my face. I'd say that my favourite usage of the classic music within the main film was probably the Superstar remix at the end. That was an absolute bop. However, my actual favourite part of the movie was honestly the credits, which was essentially a best of remix, but it was absolutely beautiful to hear. Yes, I did get goosebumps when part of Gusty Garden Galaxy played. It was so good that I forgot that there was even going to be a post-credits scene in the movie, as I was sitting for the credits willingly and jamming out to the music. However, there are other non-reference parts of the movie which are good. The animation is stellar in the movie throughout, and is easily the best looking Illumination movie. Illumination is one of those animation studios which kind of only really does one style, and whilst this movie is definitely similarly cartoony, it still feels visually distinct, and I think that's down to the backgrounds, which are full of so much detail. The character designs were also translated really well, and the film overall absolutely stands toe to toe with the fantastic cutscenes from some of the Switch games. The animation also lent itself well to the action, which was solid throughout from the training montage to the Rainbow Road battle. Also, speaking of the Rainbow Road battle, whoever decided to make the Blue Shell a character deserves a sticker. The voice actors are all surprisingly really great. I mentioned at the start of this video that I wasn't sure about Chris Pratt before going in. Well, I'm here to give an apology to him because he was actually good in the role. He wasn't stellar good, but he played the part well, and I kept forgetting that it was Pratt in the role, which is very surprising considering the fact that I can usually recognize Pratt's voice from a mile off. I think it helps that it actually feels like Chris Pratt is playing a character and isn't just playing himself, which I feel like he hasn't really done since the Lego movie. Overall, I'm happy to report that it didn't ruin the movie like Onward. In general, I didn't really recognize many of the voice actors in this movie, with the exception of Seth Rogen of course, as the laugh was a dead giveaway. Anya Taylor-Joy, Keegan-Michael Key, and the aforementioned Seth Rogen all gave great performances in their roles. Charlie Day as Luigi was fantastic and truly was perfect casting, but none of them are on the same level as Jack Black as Bowser. I think most of us can agree that Jack Black was the highlight of the whole movie. I mean, I knew it was going to be the best part of the movie before we even saw the trailers, because it's Jack Black. He's an absolute legend and amazing in most things he's in. And he's playing Bowser, one of the funniest bad guys from a video game series. And let's just say that he absolutely knocked it out of the park. Jablinski really put his all into the role to the point where you could tell that he was a fan of the franchise and the character. To quote Tyler on Letterboxd, in 50 years Jack Black's Bowser performance will be taught in acting classes. However, alongside the performance, Bowser was easily the most well-written character. The writers basically looked at his personality in the RPG games and tried their best to replicate that with the Bowser we all know and love from the mainline games, and they pulled it off flawlessly. He has the menace and the screen presence, but he also has the humour. I also love how they made him into a hopeless romantic. That was hilarious. Oh, and let's not forget that the Peaches song is absolutely top tier. Sure, it's no Fearless Hero, but it's pretty darn close. It has also been revealed that it is actually eligible for a Best Original Song nomination at the Oscars next year. If it gets nominated, I will piss myself laughing. Although I would be slightly annoyed as having Peaches nominated whilst Fearless Hero was snubbed this year would just feel wrong. However, that's where my major positives with the movie end. These positives do help me to give the film a solid score, but it doesn't change the fact that I still found the film disappointing overall. Let's talk about these problems which ultimately let down the movie for me. Before I go through the stuff I didn't like from the movie, I just want to mention that my overall opinion on this movie could have been let down by two external factors. Whilst my issues with the movie definitely led to my lower score, these other factors also could have contributed to it. The first of these two factors which could have let down my opinion on the movie is the fact that I did rewatch Puss in Boots: The Last Wish right before. Hey, don't blame me, I wasn't going to pass up the opportunity to watch it again. If you don't know, The Last Wish is my favourite movie of all time, so anything I watched afterwards was going to seem weaker by comparison, and that includes the Mario movie. I would have rather watched The Last Wish afterwards to be honest, but timings didn't work out. This means that my opinions on the Mario movie could have been let down by the fact that I was on a Puss in Boots high. However, another factor which may have swayed my opinion was the atmosphere of the cinema. You see, I had to put up with a crying baby sat literally right in front of me, and as you can imagine, it got very annoying and distracting, especially when it interrupted Bowser's solo. Can cinemas just ban babies, please? They don't belong in this kind of environment and are just a nuisance. Anyway, I just wanted to mention these other factors to give a possible explanation for why I seem to be more harsh on this movie than most other Mario superfans who loved it. But I think it is also possible that the main reason I didn't care as much for the movie is simply because its flaws bugged me more. I've made it pretty clear in the title, but my biggest problem with the movie is the fact that it lacks spark. By that I mean, it lacks anything amazing or super memorable to get me to enjoy the movie as much as I could. Honestly, this film felt like it was quite possibly the most safe, basic and bog standard attempt at a Mario movie that could have possibly been done. Whilst this does mean that we didn't get a complete bastardization of the IP like with the 1993 movie, it means that the film doesn't really have much of an identity outside of its status as a Mario movie. Yeah, it writes the characters accurately enough to their game counterparts, but it doesn't really do anything interesting with them as there are no interesting character arcs or slow character moments. Yeah, this film has a lot of references to the original games and certainly feels like a Mario movie, but eventually the impact of these references is going to wear off and so my enjoyment will decrease over time. It just means that I don't think there's much to latch onto the film outside of my love for the Mario franchise. One of the most common criticisms for this movie is the incredibly basic story, and I absolutely have to agree with this. I know Mario games have simple stories, but that's because they are cartoony platformer games which prioritize gameplay first. Films on the other hand, are driven by narratives, and weak narratives let down the film. If the film doesn't have anything interesting to latch onto outside the fan service, then the film becomes unengaging. This is how I felt about the film, because to be honest, I started to get kinda bored by the movie around the second half, as there wasn't anything new or interesting to grab my attention again. This film desperately needed a third act shake-up. By that I mean a major shift in the direction taken by the plot. I'm not saying this movie needed a twist villain or anything, instead it needed something to help the climax stand out from the other action set pieces earlier in the movie. We kind of get that with the superstar battle in Brooklyn, but I think it was ultimately too little too late. Instead, I think the final act should have focused on Mario rescuing the captive Princess Peach before eventually facing down Bowser. Not only would it be cool to see this version of Mario go through a lava level, but it would also make the stakes feel higher if Peach can't easily escape. In this movie, Peach is a lot more capable than Mario, and shut up about being woke because you're embarrassing yourselves when you say that. So seeing her stuck would make the stakes feel a lot higher. It would also truly put Mario to the test, and would just generally make the final act more interesting. There's other possible ideas they could have taken for the climax, but that was the one which I immediately thought of off the top of my head. However, alongside the lackluster plot, the characters are also really lacking. As I said before, this movie doesn't really have any kind of character moments, which means that the characters don't change much, so we can't engage ourselves with them much. They attempt to have some kind of arc between Mario and Donkey Kong where they grow to like each other more, but the film never chooses to focus on that, and is instead always zipping to the next action piece. There was potentially a good scene brewing between the pair when they were in the eel, as Mario previously saved DK from drowning. We could have seen DK apologise for being a dick, but instead they just argue again before another action set piece happens, and then they eventually get along during the climax. I'm not saying this movie needed deep character arcs which made me rethink my whole life like Puss in Boots, but it desperately needed to just slow down for 2 minutes. Alongside that, I feel like some of the characters were severely underutilized. I wish Kamek got more to do, as he mostly stayed by Bowser as his comedic henchman, when he really could have been more active in the plot. I also wish other main villains like King Boo and King Bob-omb acted as mini threats in the film, instead of being nothing more than background characters. Once again, it would have made the plot more engaging, I feel. However, easily my biggest disappointment when it came to the characters was with Luigi. Luigi is my personal favourite Mario character, and as I said before, Charlie Day was absolutely perfect casting. However, Luigi was completely sidelined by the second half of the movie, and had literally nothing to do. What's worse is the fact that he was actually fantastic in the film for about the first 30 minutes, although the random plot with the Secret Life of Pets reject was really dumb. This means that I just wanted him in the movie even more, but instead he just sat in a cage for an hour and barely contributed to the climax. Maybe if we expand upon my saving Peach climax idea, then we could have had Mario save Luigi first, and the pair work together to save Peach and defeat Bowser. I don't know, just give Luigi something to do. How can we call this the Super Mario Brothers movie when one of the brothers is barely in the film and doesn't do anything? As a result of the lackluster story and the disappointing use of the characters, I just find it hard to get engaged with the film, and thus find very few parts memorable outside of Jack Black and the references. The film overall is just too safe and basic to be something I find engaging, and overall lacks any real spark or identity. Before I move on to the conclusion though, I do want to discuss a lesser problem with the movie, but it's still an annoyance nonetheless, and that is the lyrics pop culture music. Whilst the leitmotifs and backing music were wonderful, these music choices were absolutely terrible. Mario music mostly has no lyrics, but there are a few which do, which would have fit this film, like Jump Up Superstar, obviously, as well as the Honeyloom Ridge Escape song from Odyssey, and even Do the Mario would have fit, and it would have been a cool reference. I mean, you got the intro song to the Super Show, you might as well throw in the credits music as well. All of these songs would have been great references and would have fit the movie well. Yet instead, we had random pop culture music which didn't fit at all. Instead of Jump Up Superstar, we had Take On Me, Thunderstruck, Mr. Blue Sky, No Sleep to Brooklyn, and goddamn Holding Out for a Hero. All of those are fantastic songs, although Hollywood, can you please stop using Holding Out for a Hero, as I'm getting really sick of hearing it everywhere nowadays. You can't stop this usage in Shrek 2, so don't even try. However, none of these songs fit the Mario universe at all. None of them were good picks, and instead they just took me out of the film entirely. I'm sorry, but as great as Thunderstruck is, it will never fit the Mario universe no matter how much you want it to. Even outside of not fitting within the universe, they just don't fit within the movie either. For example, when approaching the Monkey Kingdom, you would expect some kind of jungle theme to be playing, or maybe a remix of the iconic DK theme. Instead, we got Take On Me. Come on, how does that fit? I just don't know why they couldn't have used pre-existing Mario songs, especially because they not only used the Super Show's main theme, but they also included the DK rap. Seriously, what's the excuse for no Jump Up Superstar? It would have worked way better for the training montage than Holding Out for a Hero. Anyway, that's enough of me criticising this movie. Let's get to my overall thoughts where I'll compare the good and bad stuff and give my personal rating. So overall, the Mario movie has good parts to it, from the action to the animation to Jack Black. It is absolutely a movie made with the fans in mind, and I can totally understand why other Mario fans adore the film. However, for me, I just wanted more from the film, and I'm saying this as a Mario fan. I want an interesting story for these characters I love to go through. I want these characters to be active in the plot. I want phenomenal songs like Jump Up Superstar to be included. Instead, the film gave us the safest possible option for a Mario movie, which moves at a pace which never slows down for character moments, and ultimately left me unengaged at points, and I overall found the movie really disappointing. As I said at the start of this video, I went into this movie with my film studies brain pushed to the back, yet despite that, I still wasn't massive on the movie because there wasn't enough substance to keep my Mario fan brain satisfied either. If you love the film, that's great. I wish I could love it as a Mario fan, but this movie just didn't click with me ultimately. However, please remember that I did still enjoy the movie at the end of the day. The fan service still made me happy even though it will eventually wear off, and the genuine positives mean that I overall think that this movie is good, but not great. At the moment, I would probably give it a rating of a 6 out of 10, thanks to my love of the franchise. However, I feel like if I wasn't a Mario fan, it would be more like a 4, as it doesn't have enough substance to be much more than a simple generic kids film. As I said though, I can understand why some people love it, and I did still ultimately enjoy it as a fan. Importantly though, I did think this movie was infinitely better than the 1993 one. Anyway, what did you think of this movie? Did you agree with my points, or do you think I'm being a pretentious cinephile? If you love this movie, I'd love to hear why, so I can figure out why I didn't care of it as much despite being a Mario fan. All I request is that you respect my opinion. I know what some fans of this movie are like, and I'm watching you. Anyway, that's enough for this video. I hope to see you again on this channel soon. Go and listen to Bowser's Solo, and take care. Goodbye everyone.